In this video, I have some tips for solving the last 4 centers on your 5x5. So for the last 4 centers, many of the tips from the first 2 centers video also apply here. So things like flexibility, that is looking at a case and determining what the most efficient way to solve that case is. One of the, general ways of solving a 2x3, so the 2x2 block, lines, or using the T-case. Things like deduction also, so based on what you've seen around the cube, figuring out without looking where the remaining pieces of a center are, and then things like solving a center so that it finishes up on the bottom or the back side to enable you to look ahead better into the remaining centers. So of course, looking ahead for the third center starts at the end of the second center. So you've got a case like this, and immediately when I'm inserting this last 1x3 bar into the top, I've already solved the first center here. When I'm inserting this, the first thing I see is definitely this 1x3 block on white. So I'll do that and then rotate, and then immediately probably go straight into white. So I've got this 2x2 block here. So what I'll do is solve these two like that to create this 2x3. Now I see on the top that there's no other white centers. So what I'll do is rotate, do an X prime to put this white on the bottom, and also remember that this white centerpiece is here. Now look on the top. Okay, the last 2 white centerpieces are on the top here. So what I can do is do something like this and end up with my white center on the bottom and go straight away into my blue center. Another thing that's also quite useful and quite intuitive is influencing and preserving other centers. So let's say we've solved our white center on the bottom and we're going ahead to solve our blue center like this. So I've got these two, and I've got these two as well. So I would do something like that, and whilst I'm doing that, I notice that I've got all these yellow centerpieces, and I can quickly just do an RU, R prime, U prime to actually make this 2x3 block, and this is what's known as doing half centers. So I would solve this. Well, it's a more freestyle version of that, basically. So I'd solve this and then go on and finish my blue center. So I know I've got these 2 edge pieces up here. So I've got this flower case and I want to attach this one to an edge center. There's no edge center here. So I know the last 2 edge centers must be over here. So I can do like R2, U, R2. And then I don't even need to look at the bottom now. We shouldn't need to look at the bottom. I know that if I do a D, then the blue 2x3 block will be on the left-hand side here, and I just need to insert these last 3 blue pieces into the right-hand side here. So we shouldn't need to look at the bottom. We'll just look at it to confirm just now. But yeah, in a speed solve, you don't need to look at the bottom. So then I'll pair up my last blue 1x3 and place it into the bottom. And now, because I've solved this one on the bottom, and previously I solved the white center on the bottom, then my last 2 centers are on the front and the up face, and the look ahead is very, very easy. I'd preserve this 2x3. I can go straight ahead and solve my last 1x3 like that. One thing you can try and do during your last 2 centers is preserve edges. I wouldn't do this too often, only if I get a really easy case like this would I maybe put it on the bottom, or if it's here, maybe move it to the back, and then go on and solve my last 2 centers, and just remember where I've placed it. So because we're using wide R moves, U moves, and F moves, if you're a right-hander, to solve the last 2 centers, then if we place it into the back here, or onto the bottom face here, or similarly on the right side there or there, then it won't be disturbed as we solve the last 2 centers. So here we have, these 2. Let's make a 2x2. Attach these 2 to a 2x2. So notice what I would do here is actually, I have this 1x2 here, and I could attach it to this 2x2, but if I did that, I would keep these 2 corner centers on the yellow face, which gives us quite a bad case. So instead of doing this 1x2, I can just do a U, and then do this 1x2, which actually pairs up this last corner center here. So, and gives us quite a nice case for my last 2. And then remember, I've got this one here, so I would start my edge pairing on a slice which doesn't affect this preserved edge. So I'm going to do another example and talk through my thought process again. So doing my last 1x3 bar of my blue center, which is my second center, I notice that I get these 3 in the yellow face, and there's not that much on the red face here. So when I rotate, I could rotate like this, I could rotate like this. I'd probably prefer to actually rotate like this, because I saw that there was actually no yellow pieces on this face. So what I can do to make a 1x3 bar is, firstly, I could do it like this. But there's a more efficient way or a better way of doing it. If we do a wide R prime, because of this yellow centerpiece here, R prime U R, then I can create a T straight away. And then I remember here that there's no yellow centerpieces. So all of my yellow centerpieces that remain to solve, that I need to solve this center, are either on here or on the back. So I would finish solving the T and then rotate again to put my yellow center on the bottom. And I don't need to look at it again because I've put this 2x3 on the left-hand side. I can go ahead and just solve these three like that. In terms of center order, if I solve my third center onto the bottom, then I'm very, very inclined to just solve my next center on the front face here and continue to do kind of X prime rotations. So try and solve my third center on the front face, and during it, rotate so that it's on the bottom face, and my last two centers end up here. Generally, because there's only 3 centers left, there's only so many places where pieces can be, so you won't have too many terrible cases for your fourth center on the front face. But if you do, there's always the potential to switch to the back face and try and do it so that when you finish the center, so let's say you've solved the third center on the bottom and there's nothing here and there's quite a good case for the back center, what we can do is do an X prime, solve the back center on the top, and as we finish it, rotate X so that it ends up on the back when we finish solving it, and the last two centers still end up on the front and U faces, and we can easily look ahead and go straight away into solving them without any pauses. For this fourth center, I'd actually be inclined to make a T and make use of all of these 3 pieces. So I would make a T like this, and in doing so, I've eliminated all of the orange pieces from this face. And if I move my 1x3 line on the outer 1x3 line over to here, I can do an X prime and then straight away go and finish this fourth center, and I won't even need to look at the bottom face because I know I've got this line here, right? And depending on whatever case you have up here, it doesn't really matter. This is like the easiest case because all we need to do is attach this edge and then add in these 1x3, this 1x3. But let's say we have something a little bit more difficult like this. What I could do is do a U prime, and then my inclination for the finger trick would be to do a 3 wide R2 U prime, 3 wide R2 prime. Instead of like L2 and rotate, it's kind of 3 R2 like that. And then I remembered, okay, if I insert these like this orange one will end up in the bottom right position here. Again, I won't need to look at the orange center. Go straight away and solve the last 1x3 again without looking at the orange center. And that leaves me with my last 2 centers on the front and U face, which is, I think, a very, very good habit to try and get into. Particularly for the last 2 centers, because they're very easy, the strategy is just to build the 2x3 and then attach a 1x3 line to it. You should probably try and not turn as fast as possible, but turn super, super fast because, yeah, look ahead is very straightforward and everything you need is just on this front and U face, and looking into edges is difficult at the best of times when solving the last 2 centers. So I'll just go ahead and try and reduce the pause between your 2x3 and your last 1x3. So whilst you're solving this 2x3, because it's very easy, you should be able to kind of track and predict the pieces of the last 1x3 so that you can go straight in and solve them without any pause. So I'm going to do one more example of my thought process here. So we're solving the last 1x3 of this second center, and as we're doing so, I'm kind of, if possible, I'll try and scan the left and right face to see what's happening in terms of our last 4 centers. So here I notice we've got this lightning bolt and just an L shape on the red center. So if I do this, my preference is probably to rotate in this direction and work with this lightning bolt and try and find a 1x2 after that. So because I only see that this orange center is here, I've kind of remembered there was a couple of orange pieces here, but nothing particularly great. What I'll do is probably rotate like this, and luckily enough there's a 1x2 bar here. So I'd insert that in, and now I have 2 decisions. I can either rotate, so if this is on the front, if I want to put it on the back, if I want to put it on the bottom, I can rotate like this. But that leaves me with an orange piece on the back here, which isn't ideal. So what I would actually do is rotate this way and then solve these 3 so that it ends up on the bottom. So rotating from the front to the back that way with an X2, then solve these 2. So doing a U and then rotating these three up. So that's shifting the centers again. So it's kind of like an X3 prime, but it's, I think in my opinion, it's a nicer finger trick. And then attach those. And then as I'm bringing this down, I actually saw this 2x1 was going to be formed. So instead of rotating this all the way, I would do a U to influence the pieces of the next center. And I would go ahead and solve the next 1x2. Again, we have a couple of different options, or we always have so many different options when solving the 5x5. Yeah, none of them are particularly super better than others. I guess I could just solve these two, which doesn't affect these two. So that makes look ahead into the last 1x3 a little bit easier, because solving these two won't affect the position of these two ones, so we can go straight away and solve these two centers. This 1x3. So I would do wide L prime, U, wide R, U, L, U2, wide R prime, like that. And then kind of, that puts it on the front face and leaves this one on the bottom, so I know that my last two will end up here. And it's not ideal, but it'll work. And then we can make we've got a 1x3 already formed here, so it's up to us to make the next 1x3 and put it in either this position or this position. We can just do something like R, U2, R prime, and then either U prime, R prime, F2, R, or we can just go L prime, U, L, like that. And then we've got this case.